Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. I'm a spiritual guide. The journey continues today on May 17th, 2023 at approximately 4:22 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Now, right off the bat, we have football in the room with the gold, and Joe comes in with the silver. Emmy right in hot behind him with the bronze. Now, I booked it earlier, and we're looking at different deep sea races. Now, needless to say, these are people that you're not likely to see a whole lot of. However, I talked to my artist today, the one working on facing on Race of the Worlds. And what have we got here? Yeah, some are fish, but that's another issue. Um, I talked to my artist. I've given him some of the names that I were simply reference points before. All the pictures are done. He's now making one minor adjustment to the Zotar. Okay. Now the Zotar, as I've told you before, basically look like a gecko with almost with an eel-like tail. Okay, as in it's got a fin on the top of it that runs the length of the tail, but here's the kicker to the Zotar. That tail is also electric. Okay, no, it doesn't plug in, but it'll give you a heck of a shock. And here we have Nathan coming in. And Nathan, oh, whoops, missed one here. Football, where are we? Can we mind doing that? Thank you. Okay, right at the top here. We've got football with the gold, Joe with the silver, Emmy with the bronze, and JCL managed to come in with the honorable mention. I keep getting this thing turning around and switching back to Top Chat, which is why I lose some of your shows, some of your entrants. Now Nathan has joined us also, and iVoices, how you doing? iVoices, I do find this fascinating. You come in with a list of questions right off the bat, which is exactly what I like working with. Now iVoices has come in, and just a quick note before I answer that. Remember, if you've got questions, even if they are not on the topic we're discussing, please get some part of that question out in all caps. It's not yelling, it's simply waving your hand to let me know that you're there. Now iVoices has asked, can mermaids speak English and mate with humans? Well, they have tried certain things before. Can they speak English? The answer is yes. Okay. It's not exactly standard. It's kind of a mix of various different Terran languages they use. Almost, if you will, like a trade language. But can they speak in languages that people understand reasonably well? Yeah, they absolutely can. Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, the mermaids that you're talking about, there's quite a history behind them. Okay. And this is included in the second printing. But the mermaids that you know of, okay, are a seaborn race. The funny part about it is they're almost a hybrid race all the way across the board. Oh, oops. What do we got here? Joe says, I deleted my Facebook today, both on my iPad and my iPhone. On Facebook way too much. Well, that'll solve that problem. I find I don't get into a lot of things, like, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, aside from the post, and I do my best to respond to questions. But, yeah, if you're on one of the social media too much, it stands to reason, pull the plug on, it'll help you get things organized. They can be, absolutely, Henry. Okay, the real cat, and this is why I say, every time you look at something on, every time you look at something that is negative on any of the social media, and I do mean including the newspaper or the TV, your standard mainstream media, your mainstream news reporters. Anytime you listen or watch something or read something that is negative, make a point of going and reading at least two positive things. This will help balance your mind as far as the complete depression that people seem to be pushing for. Okay, now that was a bad move. I can't read that at all. So, of course, if you find you're on it way too much, then absolutely pulling the plug on it is a necessity. Okay, and I will tell, like I've mentioned before, I've already started working on a new newsletter that'll come out. The first one will go out on the 17th of June. By then, I'll have a format worked out. It's only going to be a small thing, available either through hard copy. And by the way, if I'm sending it out through hard copy, one thing I've already decided, at least for the moment, okay, until I run into a way of going around it. But the idea is very simple. If I'm sending out a newsletter, then what I'm looking at is I'm not planning on charging people for it. Okay, but that said, I will be putting the newsletter out via email or via hard copy. Okay, at which point, all it's going to take for you to receive it is letting me know what your physical mailing address is in the case of getting it hard copy. Okay, as in a physical form that you can take with you. Or in email, I just have to have, for some weird reason, an email address. Okay, but I will keep you posted as that develops. Now, going back to this other neat little question here, voices. Mermaids do speak multiple languages. I wish I could do that for you, but there's two ways of looking at them. You've got two casts. Some look very humanoid. Some literally have a tail fin instead of legs. Okay, and sort of depends on which cast you're looking at. Well, I won't argue what you heard, but I will tell you from what I've seen, manatee are an underwater mammal. Okay, that I will tell you, they're also known as the sea cow, and they've been mistaken. They've been mistaken for mermaids before. I don't know how, but no, mermaids are not an ugly race. Some of them have ugly temperaments, but then some people have ugly temperaments. See, it's a good thing that this little glare here is up on my forehead, not my nose, eh? What do we got? Yo, but no, everything I've seen about them, some of them really, when you take a look at humans. Emily, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The reality is mermaids and mermen can be as good looking, if not better, because quite often they're in far better physical shape, speaking muscle wise, muscle tone. You got to remember, these guys spend their entire life swimming, which means their muscle tone is very large, is very well defined. Okay, and yeah, I realize whales and hippopotami also spend their life swimming and aren't necessarily the best looking people. But no, everything I've seen as far as that goes, Some look very human. Okay. The thing you gotta remember is they don't pass for humans because of the fact that there's a very different feel to them. Not the least of which is they do happen to breathe through, they do happen to have a third lung. Okay. Now that's internal. Some of them develop fins, gills. There's a fairly wide variety, but ultimately what you're looking at is humanoid. The higher caste, and more often than not, you'll find that they're hybrid, are still bipedal. But you got to realize where the merfolk came from. Okay, there were three groups of people that ended up, and therefore three different groups and three different castes, if you will. The merfolk are an evolutionary path that humans took, but no. Some of their pets do, but merfolk themselves don't eat humans at all. How we doing, Dogface? No, we don't. And who do we get? Adam, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Football is just asking, do mere people eat humans? No, they do not. Okay, they will eat with humans, but they don't eat the humans themselves. I am Pam. How you doing? Glad you could join us. Merfolk are a very social group, very active, very much on the go. Okay. Some of them have, and the lower caste, if you will, ended up, and they're not, do understand when I say lower caste, this does not make them less important than other people. Okay. This means that they just didn't evolve the same way. Some of them have developed two legs whereby they can actually walk on the, I was about to say walk on water, but no, they walk on land. Okay. Some of them, their legs fused and developed into fins. Very much like the tail of a dolphin or the tail of a shark. Okay. And this being said, with those same ones that developed the fin at the back, okay, they don't tend to develop the dorsal fin, but it's quite often it's quite often common to see a fin running down the arm. Okay, but the variations are staggering. On the whole, they're very decent people. Primarily, they are, for some bizarre reason, fishermen, not hunters. They are hunter-gatherers, for lack of a better way of putting it. But obviously, they do this underwater. Now, the thing you got to realize is that there is a direct link between the merfolk, the Elfid, the humans, and the Atlanteans. Okay, man, this is why I say merfolk have quite the mix of racial traits. See, when the Atlanteans were left behind, the ones up in the North Pacific, and some in the North Atlantic, ended up meshing with some of the locals, but because things went sour, they turned more and more to the water. Net result, the net result was they ended up developing a complete underwater civilization. Now, do understand, merfolk and the sea elfin are not the same race. Okay, and there is conflict periodically between them, but they are certainly not the same race. They are simply another race down there. Now, that's one of the races. The merfolk are, and I'm not going to stay stuck on just them by any means. See, I've got this fine little notepad beside me to make sure I cover all the different ones, or at least a bunch of them. But that's where the merfolk on the whole are. Okay, now do understand, there is another offshoot. Yeah, football's just asking, do they have petty conflicts? Very much along the same lines that other races do. They have conflicts between houses, they have conflicts between families. Nothing like the Hattonfields and McCoys, thankfully. but they certainly have petty little arguments and what have you. Border disputes are a little harder because, in case you hadn't noticed, little hard to spot a spot where a border is inside a current. But there is, when you look at the merfolk, some of them have voices that are absolutely remarkable. And that's where that funny little cast of sirens. Now, sirens are merfolk. They just have me merfolk that know how to sing properly. Okay. They are another subclass, if you will. And again, they are being the sirens themselves. I don't think I've included. They're not in book 1, so they will be added into volume 2. Okay. But why do sirens sing the way they do? Well, in all fairness, they're scavengers of the surface. It's not that they're going after the people. Kimberly, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, the sirens, what they do is they draw people on, they draw ships onto the rocks, not to kill the people. As a matter of fact, they've been known on occasion to drag the people back to shore. What they're after is the stuff that's built on the surface, the stuff that will survive in the water, which means quite often it's that funny thing called jewelry and what have you, doesn't break down in salt water. Okay, but something you also got to understand. Underwater, there are a lot of freshwater streams that pop up into the ocean. Okay, which works out really nicely. You know, the funny part about it, when you start looking at that cycle, you've got and no, I am not an oceanographer. Okay, let's just be clear on that. But you've got the salt water that evaporates and goes up and comes back down in rain. Then the rain, that salty rain, works its way back through the earth, back through the plants and what have you, and ends up popping back up underwater as fresh water. Net result, yes, merfolk do have access to fresh drinking water. They do not drink salt water as a libation. They simply drink it. Yeah, they drink and they run salt water through to pull the oxygen, but their actual drinking is from freshwater streams. Now, we take a look at them. The sirens, like I said, I've got more information coming for them in the second volume. As a matter of fact, I was talking to my artist today, and we'll be starting work on the second volume soon. Okay, on pictures for the second volume to get it, and so the second volume, when it comes out, will have the pictures already in place instead of having to wait for a second printing. But I will tell you, the first printing of the first volume that came out, and some of you have it already, is only 64 pages long. The second printing of it is already at 85. Some of them do, Emmy. You know, some of the merfolk do have gills. Okay. Now it depends. You're looking at two different casts again. When you look at the ones that have the tail fin, okay, where the legs fuse to become a tail, those ones have gills that are down the outside. The higher caste that has two legs and two arms, they have their gills inside their throat. Okay, really, it's inside their mouth, but you know, so it's not visible on the outside. Those people could, for short periods, really for long periods. See, merfolk have a third lung that enables them to breathe underwater, as well as the normal lungs to breathe on the surface. Now, that was, quite frankly, that was an addition that came along when the Atlanteans merged with the other races. Okay, because the Atlanteans already had the third lung, which is why they managed to turn back to the water. It's also why everybody's seeing it. So many people go, Atlantis was an undersea kingdom. It wasn't. It just ended up evolving into one. Now, This is where it gets a little complicated. Football. Hate is something that humans have an awful lot of, and hate is usually based out of fear. The reality of it is, do the merfolk actually hate humans? The answer is no. And maybe I should clarify things. Matter of fact, I know I should clarify things. The merfolk themselves, we refer to them as merfolk, as in waterfolk. Okay. Their race is called the Whelan. Okay. And from that standpoint, they don't hate people. They actually have a use for cruise ships. Okay. See, the reason that they like the cruise ships in a way is not because of the publicity. It's because they like the shiny things that end up being thrown overboard. Okay. And yes, that does mean some of the crystal decanters that humans build, the Wayland don't have the ability to make that stuff. They don't have the equipment to, but they still like the shiny things. And of course, if you take an empty lead crystal decanter and it's been emptied, which is really easy to empty. If you take an empty a lead crystal decanter and you open it up, you can rinse it out, get all the salt water out of it, get all the rye out of it, whatever. Okay. Then they take it down to a fresh water stream to fill it with fresh water. Okay. Put the cap back on it. Now you've got a lead crystal water bottle that has fresh water that you can take with you. This is something that they prize. Okay. Because let's face it, who wants to go a day and a half with nothing fresh to drink? This is why you'll find them periodically on the rocks and in deltas and what have you. Oh yeah. They absolutely do their I am Pam. They absolutely know the cruise ship lines. Therefore, this is why you don't hear about them getting run over. Now the thing is, the sirens used to work to draw the old ships into the rocks. Okay, whereby they would get a whole pile of trinkets. But when mankind developed the ability to armor their hulls, all of a sudden it was a lot harder to get a ship to sink. Okay. And the Kraken, much as they work well in some cases, aren't great on cruise ships. They're not even big enough for the most part on cruise ships. Although one day you may find that that's not entirely the case. But the sirens they're scavengers is really what it boils down to, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But they cause wreckages in order, and they will cause wreckages in not cruise ships, but cabin cruisers and your luxury yachts and what have you. They will quite readily, still to this day, cause them. Yes, in answer to your question, we are tired, but we're also apparently having fun with the lungs. What do we got? Do they have shelters, and how do they keep from getting? Well, one of the first things you have to remember, Emmy, do they have shelters? Yes. They have underground caverns that they will surface in. And how do they avoid getting eaten by sharks? Well, first of all, they know how to deal with them. Second of all, they actually speak the same language when they need to, which means they can let the shark know that no, not actually food, because it's a toss up. You know, oh, orcas don't just try to crash boats. Orcas will crash boats. An orca seeing a boat from underneath has been known to punch a hole in it. And it's really neat when you take a look at the Whalen. They can mobilize the sharks, the dolphins, the kraken, okay, and many other races because they are the dominant. The Whalen. Well, I shouldn't say the Whalen are the dominant race, but they are the dominant ones that are closest to the surface. Because when you look at the sea elephant have one primary location that they live. And there's a couple of them I know of, but the one that virtually everybody knows the location of is the bottom of the bottom of the Marianas Trench. You know, the neat thing is, like, I'm a firm believer, I'm just noticing football here is just saying don't disrespect the orcas. And you don't. Okay. The other thing that the whalen do is they'll go into a cavern that's got an underwater entrance, meaning mankind can't get to it even if they like spelunking. And yes, there have been humans that have caught whalen in like have found them in their own habitat. You'll notice there's nobody talking about it. Kind of like very few people talk about running into an alien in an alien base. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, another one of the underwater races is is the Zotar. Now, the Zotar look very much like a cross between a gecko and an electric eel. And yes, they do have an electric shock that comes out of their tail. Okay. These guys, I mean, you gotta remember, an electric eel is like something I think in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 feet. The Zotar are a staggering 6 inches at best. Okay. They're just not a large race. Actually, I should grab that just because. I am looking for this. Because I just want to make certain that I got that size right. This is why I say I do not have an absolutely perfect memory. But I am working on it. Where are we? There we go. Yeah. Like I said, they are like these, and the Zotar are a very small race. They literally are only about yay tall, and one day I'll find a figure that actually fits. And I see Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could you too, eh? Glad you could join us though. I gotta show you something here because this is coming up. This is actually for you, literally for to show you there, Shadow. Another series of books I'm in the middle of writing has this neat little critter in it. Okay. And yeah, he is as colorful as he looks. They are not, it's a very different setup. But this is what I'm doing now is finding the different races, finding the different figures to actually match the characters in my books. You know, they're not perfect by any stretch, and the painting job, I will tell you, is absolutely appalling in some cases. But yeah, the month has been nuts for a lot of people. But the Zotar are another deep sea race. Okay. Well, in all fairness, I shouldn't call them deep sea. They do go there they do spend a lot of time there, but that's to say, it's not that they like the shallow water, the deep water. They actually prefer the shallow water. You know, and the smaller ones can appear, they're not shapeshifters, but because of the way that they can move, they can look very much like a standard gecko. Okay. And quite honestly, some of them can blend. Like when people have asked me, can these entities look like humans? Well, Zotar haven't got a prayer, but they do on occasion pass, and they do on occasion pass for geckos, iguanas. Okay, it'd have to be a baby iguana, by the way. Okay, but they deal very much on that side. You are working once again, Nathan. This is actually a good thing. Speaking of work, I have made a final decision on what I'm doing. I'm still working on getting my EI sorted out. But once I've got my EI running, I've got a few months, and I'm going to be going after full retirement. I finally decided I am building what I've been talking about. Nathan's going, just work, busted computer repair. Oh, joyful. I can fry a computer in a heartbeat. Joe, how you doing? Oh, nice. Now, I got a question for you there, Joe. You said you're working on a new pirate ship, Queen Anne's Revenge. Is this going to be when you're done with it, are you making it so it's the Queen Anne's Revenge in its heyday or after a battle it lost? Just a curiosity thing on my part. I can show you all sorts of ways of doing that. Way to go there, Nathan. I hate to tell you, but at least you got the advantage. You fry your own computer, at least you can fix it. Oh, that ought to be nice. So I gotta ask, because pirate ships have always fascinated me for a lot of reasons. But are you looking at a two-master, a three-master, or a four-master? And don't ask me what the actual name of them were. Right. I haven't done a whole lot of studying, but I do know that there are, some of the bigger ships were more like luxury liners than they were anything else. The fact they were owned and operated by pirates did not mean they weren't run well. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. Many times I found was that pirates were actually far more adept at running a ship than many of the military. Oh no, maybe I should put that. I said mastery, yes. But I'm referring to, does the ship have one, two, three, or four masts? That was what I was referring to. You know, like most of the pirate ships that I saw, most of them would run two masts. And then of course you had your oarsmen. But it's literally just a question. I'm presuming, knowing you, I'm presuming you're going the whole 9 yards, getting it built properly, then getting it painted properly. It will be fascinating to see how it evolves. But so we've got. Whoop, let's get that down. I'm just making certain that I've got that I cover the ones I was aiming for. Now, this said, there are the sea elephant, which, by the way, are simply they are just another race of the elephant. Some of the elephant moved underwater. You know, they ended up, because they were on the shore so much, and they ended up cornered. They backed into the water more and more, and long and the short of it was they ended up evolving a set of lungs to breathe underwater. Now, here's the funny thing with the sea elephant. When they first started dealing with the surface races again, they would kidnap humans, abduct them, okay, because they wanted to get to understand them. The sea elephant are a very curious race, okay, and they did really desire to make contact with humans. But there was a problem. Okay, humans were afraid of them, first of all, simply because you watch somebody walking out of the water, it makes people edgy. And the sirens weren't helping in the situation. So the sea elephant would turn around, they'd kidnap a person, drag him underwater. Well, understanding that humans don't breathe underwater well, the the sea elephant, what they do is they take a human, drag him into the water, And for some weird reason, humans tended to fight a lot harder to stay out of the water than they do to stay out of a man. So they overpower them and drag them underwater. Because of course the sea elephant and the whalen are both far stronger than what humans are because they're constantly in the water. Okay, but they drag them underwater. By the time they got them down to the civilization, they would turn and they'd find out that the human had drowned. Okay, which didn't work well for communication lines. Then mankind came up with a neat little development. Mankind developed the deep sea diving bell. And when that happened, okay, the sea elephant ended up getting a hold of a couple of these. Like I said, they cannot build these kinds of technologies. I mean, try running a forge while you're underwater. Good luck with that. And by the way, a magma vent underwater does not work well as a forge. So they got a hold of some of the deep sea bells, and they put the people in the deep sea bell. But unfortunately, the early forms of the bells were not self-contained. So as you drug the person down, granted, they had limited time to get down there regarding oxygen, so they dove really quick. Problem was that the humans ended up being pressurized and pushed into the helmet. Net result, they ended up dying anyway. Until until the sea elephant, with the assistance of the Atlantean-born whalen, they turned around and developed something you guys have seen pictures of. If you watch the show, The Abyss, okay, that blue liquid that is plunged into their lungs, okay, is what stops humans from collapsing at deep sea. It's also why humans end up coughing it up. Okay, comes out looking kind of like a gel, like a half-baked jellyfish. Okay, yeah, I'm lucky from that one, Joe. I killed the computer off in a heartbeat. That blue liquid, the blue is simply because it's the color it worked out. There was nothing specific about it being blue. Just worked out that way. And before we go very far, somebody's going to ask me sooner or later, have I gone through that? Yes. Only fortunately, they decided they were taking me down there after they had the support gel. And I've got to sort that out. I got to talk to them again before before I add that to the technology level in volume one. Do understand, in volume one, I've got a number of different types of technologies from different races that are already in existence. This gel being one of them. I just got to find out what they actually call the thing, just so I've got the right term for you. But so we do have the sea elves here, right? The sea elephant. They are simply, like I said, another race, much like you have your Chinese race, your European race, your African race, your North American Indian, and your East Indian races. This is the same idea with the whalen, you've got the whalen, you've got the sirens, you've got the the Atlantean hybrids, or in all fairness, they're not hybrids. They are half breeds, is a much more accurate way of putting it. Okay. And of course, you've got your sea elephant. Now, the sea elephant is a different species altogether, but the whalen and the sirens are the same, and they're the same peoples. Okay. But I will look into that, but into what the actual term is for that gel they use, but it is very real. Now, at the same time, in that same movie, I don't know who the director or the writer was for Abyss, but I will tell you this: that one other little issue that you saw in that movie was something that that would be colloquially known as a water elemental. Okay, they are the Wailosh. Okay, and they are just simply, um, I almost want to call it ionized water, but it's not. But they are comprised of primarily water. Okay, but it's a different electrochemical configuration that enables them to operate the way they do. Now, you've got your Wailosh, and your Whelan. The Whelan are the merfolk, if you will. The Wailosh are your water elementals. Okay, and then of course you've got a few other ones, and let's see, there are a couple of others, and they're in book 2. I haven't done a lot of work on the documentation of them yet, but there is a race that is also evolved from crabs. Okay. In other words, they've got the carapace that a crab has. They've got that outer shell. Okay. And again, we are like, what is below our surface is mind-boggling. You know, each eye is home, or Earth is home to a staggering number of different races. Humans are not the only race. They are simply the dominant surface-dwelling, technologically advanced one. That's it. They don't even outnumber the other races. Okay. But I will tell you, the Talon, which are they appear like ants, like 3-foot ants, but they appear like ants. Okay. They are not from Earth, and then we refer to them as ant-like because they look like human ants. Or human-sized ants is more to the point. Well, thank you so much for that, Joe. I do appreciate that. As I told my other half, I will, the sideburns I'm keeping, but from here all the way over, my chin, my mustache, all of that, after my son graduates on the 23rd, at the end of June, I will be removing those because, quite frankly, the beard, especially down here, gets really itchy in the summer. I'm not keeping it. Yeah, Shadow's going, as long as they don't look like potato bugs. No, no, the potato bug. There is a race that looks like them. Yo, there's no problem there. I do not believe the number of times I have this problem. Yeah, you should see when what you call potato bugs go to work on wood. They will punch holes in it faster than you can blink. You know, but no, what we got to remember, and this is where humans run into a very big problem. Humans have taught themselves to be very xenophobic. You know, so it was funny. I got asked to join a group just the other day on Facebook, and they said there's no promoting yourself. So I went, okay. So I got asked. I've got a YouTube channel. Does this mean I'm not allowed to let people know that I'm there? I got clearance to go ahead and absolutely let people know. What do we got? Joe goes, I had a paranormal experience this afternoon Outback daytime. Wrote it down in the paranormal folder. Now that is a really difficult question to answer. And I gotta see if I've actually gotten the information because there's a race I came across that is just, to me, very fascinating. To open that up, move it out of the way and find. Oh, I don't need to open that one up. I need to minimize that for a minute. Gotta minimize a whole bunch of things so I can actually see what I'm doing. And hopefully I don't hit the wrong button. Where is Races of the World's? Where, pray tell, is it? That one there. Now let's get my video back up so I can see who I'm talking to. Okay, that was a little different. Now I just gotta go down here and see where it is. All I gotta do is go find. I'm looking for the actual name of to answer the question you're referring to. There we are. That's the one I wanted. They are called the Fuente Wren. Now, the Fuente Wren, the reason I find them fascinating is because the differences in the races, in the way that humans are and what have you, is just bizarre. The Fuente Wren, and they are in volume 2. Okay. They are 5 feet tall. See, I've got the whole thing right here. Yeah, humans still refer to them as humanoid. They would, they would almost pass for humans with really, really big forearms. But here's the thing: when a human goes to greet somebody, they reach out and they shake your hand. This is quite normal in just about every culture on Earth. However, if a Fuente Wren goes to actually shake your hand, you have a problem. Okay, because they have number one, yeah, I definitely have to sort that out. There's a couple of things you gotta realize with them. Okay, the reason their forearm is as big as it is because they literally eat with their hands, as in they will grab hold of whatever it is, your own arm included, and their stomach comes out of their forearm and wraps around whatever whatever they're hanging on to. Okay, at which point the stomach acid dissolves what they're hanging on to. Now they themselves are immune to their own acid. Okay, but their face will not pass for human in even the most drunken state. Okay, they almost look like they've got a mosquito face. Okay, except they have predator eyes, as in they are binocular vision, but their mouth, okay, is a very small mouth with an extendable. Basically it's an extendable straw, and it inserts into a gap in the forearm where they actually suck up their diet. Now, this is not a human race. And you would never pass for one. They would never pass for humans. Okay, but they are run by a dictatorship. Okay, are they a threat to humans? Not really. Okay, but by the way, they are not waterborne. The reason they can spend time in water is because their lungs are different than what humans are. But I'm still working on exactly how that all works. Oh, that'd be why I forgot about that little piece. Okay, and this is all included in volume 2, by the way. Okay, they are number one, obviously immune to acid. Okay, they have a built-in neurotoxin in their saliva. Now, do understand their saliva is not exactly something you gotta worry about too much. Okay, the reason they can go underwater is because they do not breathe. They literally do not require air of any form, which means they are immune to high and low pressure, so they can travel. They are literally able to go on land, air, water, and outer space. Okay, and much as their talons are sharper than all get out, they don't have teeth, something to do with not having an actual mouth to speak of. Now, some of them have learned how to speak, if you will, a stylized Terran. Stylized as in, have you ever tried speaking without moving your lips? They do it that way. That's how they can speak standard, standard human, if you will. That is not what I'm trying to bring up my other view here so I can see what's written. There we are. But I do think I just managed to catch this. You know, Joe's just saying I barely pass for a human. I've been called a lot of things in my life, and many of them are not repeatable in polite company. But I think that's one of the most fascinating races I personally have come through. Well, that's just it. If you're talking about parrots, or more like Joe's just gone. What we got? I'm afraid to ask where that thought line's going. Oh, yeah. In all fairness, Adam, the answer is no. They really aren't. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. They are not a threat to you right now. If, however, mankind keeps continuing to destroy the planet upon which they are living, they may take offense to that eventually. They already are not impressed. But you got to remember, the underground races are, you know, the that's terrible, Joe. That really is. The underground races, aka the ancient races, are not a viable threat at this point. They aren't organized to be a threat. And quite frankly, when they moved underground, okay, they got along very well. Even some of the most adversarial of them managed to get along. It sort of depends on which ones. Many of the, Adam is just asking, have they evolved in where they are used to darkness, or do they have an artificial sun? They do have, many sources of bioluminescence. Some have developed eyesight that only where that they're absolutely blind in sunlight. Okay. Some have evolved where they work with bioluminescence. Matter of fact, there are a couple of them. There are a couple of species down there, not sentient races that I'm aware of yet, that actually they literally produce a bioluminescent torch, if you will. Very much like what the deep sea angler does, except they carry it around in daylight to be able to see. Well, carry it around above ground. I would not, Raven's just asking, are we headed for a pole shift in our generation? I would not expect it. It usually seems to take close to a century for a pole shift to actually happen, which might give you an idea what kind of weather pattern you're looking at. But the reality of it, as far as are we worried about north and south going? I would love to say you better pray not, because I'll tell you, you swap the north and south magnetic poles, we are in serious trouble because every computer we have will cease to work. And anybody that works with computers would understand that one in a heartbeat. But the second we swap the north and south magnetic poles, all of the electronics that we're working with cease to function. And many of the bioelectric fields that humans work with will run into serious problems. You want to see a drop in population, swap the magnetic poles and see what it does to pacemakers. And no, by the way, I don't actually have one. I look at it going, what good would putting an electronic item in my body do? Oh no, it's definitely strong enough to grow food. Um, it's kind of funny the way that goes. Am's going, is the bioluminescence strong enough to grow food, or do they do that artificially? No, it's very definitely strong enough. But do understand a lot of their plant life is number one, things along the lines of what you call lichen or algae. Okay. And they can grow it at a staggering level. And there's even some types of fungi that they harvest. Problem is that some of the plant life that is underground has developed its own life, and some of it will move of its own accord. Okay, one of the obvious issues, and let me just take a look at that. Is that in this one or in book two? No, it's definitely in this one. I'm hanging on to book one here. Oh, nope, they are not in book one. I've already got them drawn, but the spear knocked in are literally, they look like a little mushroom, like a button mushroom. Okay. And we are talking about a race that is only this tall if they're really big. Okay. But they're mobile of their own accord. But the bioluminescence, you got to understand, there is a furnace in the center of the earth that powers a lot of things. They work a lot. These guys work a lot with geothermal energy and bioluminescence. Okay. So are you in danger of them coming to the surface and really, I'm really taking over? I wouldn't worry about it too much. Of course, in all fairness, I've got no reason to worry about it. I get along with a lot of them. But what you can bet on is they do use, like, their method of keeping tabs on what mankind is up to is the tree roots that reach into the earth. These guys use those to get information about what's going on up on the surface. Okay, and I'm just looking at this. Now we do have there's a couple of other races I know of. I'm just trying, where did I put that book? Because I gotta move it where I can actually get the names straight. Not that was 12. There. We'll move that over here. Because I do want to make sure that we cover a couple of other people here. Take that all the way to the top, and then this is one of the advantages of having more than one monitor. Is I can actually keep an eye on a lot of things at once. None of those. What have we got? Oh, yeah. And there is a race, and I get a kick out of this one. You actually have, well, people already know about, things like the hippopotami and what have you. There is a race of there is a race that literally looks like an underwater elephant. Kind of along the same lines as the hippopotamus, but instead of just the wide jaw, they've got a trunk on top of it. Joe, a pole shift, and it happens, as near as I can recall, about every 360,000 years, where because of the way that the magma flows around inside Earth, about every 360,000 years, we take a look. I don't actually have one there, but this. Okay, you take a globe. Now you notice this one happens to have a little bit of a divot here. Okay, a pole shift is referring to the magnetic pole. Okay, so what'll happen is about every 360,000 years, the magnetic poles shift. But this causes extreme chaos in the atmosphere at the time. You want to get an idea of the chaos, take a bucket of water, okay? You fill a bucket with water and just stick a spoon in it and stir it, okay? That's the way the magnetic field goes. But when you have a pole shift, all of a sudden, all of the energy goes the other way. Now, the reason I say grab a bucket of water to look at it is you take a bucket of water and you spin it in one direction, okay? And you'll get it moving to a nice little whirlpool. Then, without stopping, you're spinning it this way. Then, without stopping, just go the other direction. And notice the change in the current. Take a look at the chaos that's going to happen. That's what will happen to the atmosphere. And it can take anywhere from what I've seen from 50 to 100 years without even thinking about it. Sometimes it takes longer. Just basically depends on how long it's been since the last one. In other words, you take that spoon and you spin it in a circle. If you go once, twice, then go back, it's only gotten up a certain amount of speed. If, on the other hand, you've been doing this for a couple thousand years and then all of a sudden go to shift it, you're going to have chaos like you're not going to believe. It won't be a question of mankind going, oh, we're going to ground all flights because the weather's bad. It's going to be a question of we can't get the plane to fly down this runway to get off the ground. This is what happens with a pole shift. And yeah, a lot of people end up dead in those because all of a sudden, not only because you got to remember, all of a sudden you've got weather systems that are crashing into each other with massive electrical discharges. Okay. And if you think the lightning bolts of today are bad, wait till you see the ones caused by a pole shift. And this is why you'll find many of the races that survive the best are the ones that can get underground or underwater. Ultimately, that is correct, Nathan. These underground cities were a question. Yeah, well, I like the way you put it as a circus too. When the world really shifted gears and mankind gained dominance, the races went underground because of that. Okay. Yeah, autocorrect. For something they call autocorrect, it's amazing how many problems they have with it. Okay. I don't know about you, but I find autocorrect is more of a pain in the neck than anything else. Because not only are you trying to keep an eye on what you're doing, but you got to keep an eye on what the computer is doing. So I mean, from that standpoint, yeah, the underground cities, and do understand, people getting into the caves right now, and you've got these tiny little tiny little cracks in the wall that you can go through, that you can worm your way through, and then you find a little bit of cavern. Well, you got to remember, those tiny little holes that you're dragging through, those are air vents. Okay, it's not just a little bit of water that ran and punched a hole. Those are air vents. Now, let's see what else we got here. Those guys are definitely not. See, now the Balar aren't exactly an underwater race. They can go underwater for periods of time, and some of their races can. Balar, by the way, look very much like snails. However, you gotta understand, think of a snail that has figured out how to use technology. Yes, they still grow their shells and what have you, but these guys have figured out And bear in mind, most Balar are not that big. Okay, let me just double check here. Oh, okay. I do not have that yet. The Balar are very close to human sized. Okay, if you saw the original Doctor Dolittle, they showed a snail that is about the right size for a Balar. Okay, so I mean these things, like I said, a lot of the movies that people have, these races are quite literally serious. Okay, they are actual real little individuals. That wouldn't be a shock at all there, Joe. I haven't actually been watching the news to find out what all is going on. But given the number of times that we lose cell connection, that we lose power lines and what have you, it's not just because mankind is using too much power. Okay, and people are talking about sun flares, solar flares, and what have you. These are all drawn by a pole shift, or more to the point, they're amplified by a pole shift. Now, what else do we got here? Oh yes, I forgot about that. I mentioned the Kraken. There is a smaller version of the Kraken. Now, humans call them Kraken. The Kraken are quite literally, and they're not all 60 feet long, but the Kraken are the Queespar. Okay, they are an underground race that look very similar, in all fairness, and I'm not 100% certain of this, but I'm pretty sure of it, that the Queespar are they are very similar in configuration to the Udina, with the big exception. The Udina has only 7 legs. Okay, 7 limbs. With the Queespar, they've got between 8 and 10. Okay, usually 10. As a matter of fact, I think if I recall correctly here, because the Queespar are very definitively an underwater race. The Udina are an interstellar race. Okay, then we carry on down here and let's see who else we've got. The Argon. Oh yes. Remember I mentioned that there was a race that looks like that look like the crabs. Those are the Eargon. Okay, which are literally they are not a Terran race. They look very similar to Terran crabs, but there are some pretty distinctive differences. You won't mistake the Argon for a crab, rest assured on that. Okay, but the funny thing with the Balar is when you look at the Balar, they have weaponry that they built to work both underwater and above ground. Okay, this is something else about the Whelan. The Whelan, do they have weaponry? Yeah, sure, they absolutely do. But they work on hydropower. Okay, they work on, for lack of a better way of putting it, um, super cooled water. Okay, also known as ice throwers. Now, let's see. Oh yes, these wonderful, and see, this is what I meant. This is why I said when I went to, when I went to look at this race, somebody asked about deep sea races. Okay, we have the Johann here. Now the Johann happen to look like jellyfish. Okay, and needless to say, this means they range in size, but the Johann themselves are on average, I do believe, yeah. I'm just looking at the notes I've been piecing together here. The Johann usually are on, if you will, about 3 feet over the bell. Okay, now there are some that are a lot bigger. Okay, and by the way, much as the Johann are an off-world race. Okay, there are many that have colonized on Earth. Okay, but every jellyfish you see is not a Johann. Kaisal, Kaisan, Kamoran. Oh, yes. I'm just scanning through to see if I missed any others. You know, like I said, there's a fair chunk of races I'm dealing with here. Where? Oh, yes, those are definitely not. Yeah, those are a wonderful group. Let's see here. Raylands, the Rarka, Sirens, the Slodar. Just going through the tail end of them here. We've got a number of different energy races that look like energy races, if you will. Theoderi, what pray tell? Oh, that's why. I knew there was a connection. When I said the Kraken are a different breed, the Kraken are literally, they're an offshoot. They are descendants of the Udina. Okay. They evolved a little differently once they got here. Now we also have, those are all energy races of varying different forms. Oh yeah, and then these neat little guys. The Zeoplane. The Zeoplane are an ancient race. They are way down deep in Earth's waters. Okay. Basically, you're looking at what looks like a telescoping sponge. Okay. But this is why they're way down deep. These guys will open up, and they are big enough to swallow a man whole. Needless to say, they're also big enough to swallow any of the Whelan or the sea elephant. Okay, so I mean, we are talking about reasonably large individuals. And, oh yes, and I mentioned that there was a fish-like race. Okay, that were a fish-like species, if you will, and that's the Zodarian. Now, you guys have actually seen, if you've watched Star Wars at all, you've actually seen some of the Zodarians. Okay, you would have seen them as, if you've seen the Star Wars series, you're looking at the what look like fish. Okay, if you're looking at D&D and Dungeons and Dragons, the closest picture I've seen are the Quatoa. Okay, so I mean these are all different races. Every one of them, virtually every one of the ones I've talked about, do exist in in water, not necessarily our waters. Okay, I'm trying to remember which race it is. There is an interesting race. Their ships they are literally hydropods, meaning their ship is comprised completely of water. Okay, it's a polymolecularized outer core to hold the water inside. But the neat part about it is the second it hits salt water, okay, the second it hits a natural body of water, the ship automatically will disincorporate. Okay, now don't worry about that side of it. From their standpoint, they can form these ships just simply by thinking of it. Okay, it's kind of an interesting way that they do it, and I will have to. And I'm just making note of that for myself right now. Their ships, and these people's ships. Um, and is it them? many of the interstellar ships of water-bearing races, okay, are built of water, but they can be formed by mental cohesion. And I will be including this is something that I've got to add to the technology list that I'm working on for the second printing of Races of the Worlds. And understand, this is one of those things that when I put the second volume out, all of this information from the front of volume 1 will be transferred into volume 2, but volume 2 will undoubtedly have new technology, okay, that I'll be working with. But these are just some of the races that we're dealing with. Okay. And by the way, the one little addition to the bioluminescence lighting issue about being able to see. Okay, they actually have the underwater peoples actually have developed a way of focusing that light to produce essentially a headlight. Okay, that is done by a combination of bioluminescence and polished mica or polished silver. Okay, and yeah, you can find liquid silver underground. Okay, the closer you get to a magma source, the easier it is to find liquid silver. Can't imagine why. So, all in all, like these are just some of the races that we're looking at. And there are going to be more coming. You know, I was looking at it the other day. One just a curiosity thing. Let's take that all the way up here. I think I'm looking at about 40 here, but there's 2, 5, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, 28, 31, 30, 33, 35, 30, 36, 39, 42, 45. Right now, Volume 2 has another 47. Another 47 races. Which means, all in all, between the two volumes, I'm looking at 106 races that I've personally been dealing with. And yeah, I understand how weird that seems. Most people go, I've dealt with one. Which, you know, I've dealt with one I've been abducted by sometimes too. I don't even bother trying to figure out the total number I've actually got under my belt. I'm just putting them together as I go along. But a couple of months back, somebody asked how many different races I dealt with, and because they asked how many there were, and like I told them, I'm looking at in excess of 2,500. Now, some of these races are not. Some of these races I've dealt with, you've never even seen. Okay, but then I deal with them in big numbers. I don't deal with people well in big numbers, but then you got to remember, one of the reasons I don't is because if I'm out dealing with people, if I go to a speaking engagement, I'm working. If I'm just going to visit, I don't do well in crowds. Okay, I never have. But needless to say, I've got 106 already set. I'm still adding more. I doubt, especially with the size of what these volumes are turning out to. Now that I've got the second printing out, and the second printing, where are we here? Absolutely, they do, Henry. The Whelan and the Whelan and the Waylosh get along quite well on the whole. Obviously, individuals may have conflict, but as a species, as a race goes, they're quite fine. Mm. Dogface is just going, you gotta watch instead of listening. Them sideburns looking extra strong today. Well, I will tell you, after what happened the other day, I'm surprised that anything's still functioning. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm going through a staggering amount of water right now, which is not a bad thing. But where, pray tell, did I put it? Of course, I'm looking for my phone that tells me what my temperature is. And I don't know where that went. But then I don't have to leave my chair here for the phone to go missing. It's kind of a weird setup on that end. And yeah, it's missing. I have no idea where it went to because it was right here beside me. And well, you've noticed I haven't gone anywhere. But it apparently did. Why it went somewhere else, I don't know. I was just looking at it a little bit ago. But so be it. I'm not going to go trying to find it because, frankly, I don't need to talk to anybody on the phone right now. You know, the neat part about it, and I did tell Dave the other day, much as I won't be there for this party, in Las Vegas, next year I'm already making plans to come down next year. As a matter of fact, I just found out I could be doing a fair amount of traveling this coming year. Which reminds me, I best get my passport updated. Yeah, I thought about that, but no. It's not that flat, it's not in any one of my 3 pockets. I can't go in my front ones. But I have done that before, their dog face. But no, it seems to have gone for a walk. I don't know where. It'll show up again. It's probably gone up front. And I know that sounds weird because you guys have not seen me, or did somebody see me leave the room and I don't remember it? But, something I am working on, by the way. Okay, and I was actually talking to my artist about it this morning. I've done it before. I've done it before actually with my glasses, where I'm going, where are my glasses? And just totally phased out on it. But no, if I were sitting on it, I could feel it. Besides that, I'm checking. I'm looking at it here, and I got nothing in my pockets. But I was talking to my artist, and I will be looking into in the near future, once I get all the pictures dealt with, then I will start looking at getting prints done, getting t-shirts, cups, that sort of thing, and get into the merchandising side of it. But that's a whole other ball game where now I'm looking at PST and that sort of thing, taxes and what have you, that I've got to look into. I've got to talk to somebody about making certain I do that properly. Just a thought. But I'm looking at it going, if I'm going to make this work, I've got a number of different venues to go down. And yes, even especially when you look at this. I figured this out a long time ago. Yep, they're not there. Figured this out a long time ago. Now that's a children's book. Okay. Whoop. Trying to see if we can get the. There you go, Mr. Dreamcatcher. Now the thing is, I've already looked into the possibility of merchandising on these. The different figures that are in here. I will be looking into getting stuffies and what have you done. Because who are we here? This little chap here, the little green guy. Okay, I'm going to have to look into somebody that can actually make those for me. Eventually, it will happen. At this point, it's still in the planning stages. But so is the building of the whole work process. So, I mean, I'm looking at a lot of different possibilities here. And no, I'm not coming to a yeah, I've got, there's a couple of sayings that are tied into the Yldrbacian Chronicles, right? Not the least of which, and I will be getting these done. In the Yldrbacian Chronicles, they don't drink coffee, they drink something called borsod's, which is the after collapse version of it. Okay. And a friend of mine, when I first came up with the name, a friend of mine looks at me and goes, "I want a cup that says borsod's or bust." Right. Obviously, it is tied strictly to the Yldrbacian Chronicles, and this is why I'm looking for a copyright lawyer at this point. So I got to get on that now that the thing is, as soon as my income tax is sorted, or not my income tax, my EI is sorted out, I will have a lot more room to work. Yeah. Joe goes, I have my superstitions too. Still, just some things I won't go near. Well, yeah, call them superstitions or just call them an abject, I ain't going there. I used to have a fear of horses. I couldn't go near them without dropping my coffee, or more to the point, they couldn't come near me. But everybody's got their likes and dislikes. You know, this is why I've told people I make literally every single person I ever meet happy. Some people by showing up, most of them by leaving. You know, the one thing I will tell you as we start looking at these races and start bringing them into public view. Okay, now I cannot bring them into public view as in here, come and meet. Here is so and so of such and such a race. That ain't going to happen. I won't do that with humans. I'm not about to do it with another race. Besides that, that is not where my forte is. That'd be diplomacy, and that's not my specialty. In case you hadn't noticed. But I will be getting the artwork and what have you. As a matter of fact, some of the artwork I'm just about at a point, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll figure out how to get them posted. I can probably actually, now that I've got them just about tied off, um, I will be able to actually turn around and go, here's what we're working with. But that's a fair number of various races that we're dealing with. What? Somebody's agitated outside. So there's a lot of, you've got land-based races, you've got water-based, you've got some air-based, okay, and space-based. You know, there are races like, I mean, if you take a look at it, when you look at some of these different species, they are very different from humans. One thing you got to remember, and Gene Roddenberry that made the original Star Trek. Okay, he made a comment early on in his career where he said the biggest problem that mankind will have in dealing with different races is not the language, it's the cultural complication because different races don't have the same background. So they've got no reference points. And that's where the problem's going to come in. Now, of course, when we're looking at races of the worlds, okay, we're looking at races that I've put together in encyclopedia form. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Henry's going, does life exist in molten magma? Where the heck did I put it? Let us just find. I think I've got them there. Nope. Trying to remember what the race was. I thought I came across it. Oh, that's why. If we go liquid, we should be able to track it that way. Hey, that's one liquid stone, also known as magma. The Kaizal are literally they literally are of liquid of molten magma. Okay. They are then obviously with somebody that is comprised of molten stone. Okay. Obviously, never shake this guy's hand. He's going to cause a problem. Okay. And depending on what he is, like not all magma is the same configuration, which is why all parts of a volcano are not living. Okay. But does molten magma house certain life forms? Absolutely it does. Just not human ones. You know, because the Kaizal and the Kazon, by the way, Kazon are not what you might think. They are literally liquid metal. Okay. So when you're looking at that, there are many races that do not have a human reference point. Okay. Now, the important factor to remember here with molten magma, humans don't do well with molten magma. It has some sort of a real nasty effect on their skin configuration, as in it melts. What do we got here? Yeah. So as that's why I said they're not the same thing. With the Kazon, not those guys. Where are we here? Oh, that's why that didn't show up, you idiot. Forgot to hit send. Anyway, those are the Kazon. Okay. And I haven't done a whole lot of work on putting them together, but they are liquid metal. Okay. Unlike the Kazon, which are a flesh and blood thing. Okay, I think Skyrim has something similar to that as well, but can't remember if that's trying to remember what the race is they use there. But yeah, clearly there are. Yeah, the after no, those are underground. I actually, amazingly enough, I've never gone into the underground enough on this run. Like my character in Skyrim right now is 52nd or 53rd level. I still have not spent any time in the underground complexes yet. But I ended up running into a snag today. There was one that I had to there was a problem, a puzzle I had to deal with. But because I get lost so easily, and with this particular puzzle, I couldn't actually I couldn't actually tap into the map to figure out where I was going. So I ended up having to utilize my son's sense of direction to solve run to get through it. You will eventually I am looking at the possibility of going online. Right now I'm just working solo. But I have been playing with the idea of possibly going online now that I've got the two computers separated. I'll tell you, technology and I do not get along, but my instincts seem to work reasonably well because I brought in a computer tech to get my system set up, told him what I figured I had to say and get set up. He got me to modify it a little. I figured he was a computer tech. What the heck? He did get it working for the most part, but I had to downgrade some of it to make sure it worked properly. Yeah, I haven't spent any time in Blackreach yet, but I have gotten back into like right now, my character at 54, I concentrated solely on his on his health and on his stamina. Stamina so he could carry stuff, right? But his health right now, I think, is somewhere around the same, somewhere. with bonuses. Well, the 54th level, so it's got to be over 400 on its own, but I've got some armor and what have you that bolsters that. But I finally upped my magic to 100 and, well, it's at 120 right now. The next level I go up, I'll be bringing it up to 130. But that's simply so I can clean up some of the bodies I've been leaving around. You know, I haven't focused on magic that much. But I've got another character that I'm looking at from a different angle. But so far, Skyrim itself I can actually play now for the most part. I run into a snag on occasion where I can't find my way around, right? And that's because of my sense of direction and or lack thereof. So of course, I'm working with that. That's my one destroy one of two distractions. Oh, intriguing. Yeah, I haven't downloaded any of those. Of course, I'm in the process. I decided I was going to finish I was going to finish Skyrim at first, right? Itself first, right? Neat part about it is I've already taken my different skills. Stealth I've legendary twice, and I'm close to legendarying it a third time. I've already taken my pickpocket to legendary once, and I've got a few that are getting very close to going legendary. I know when I get my lockpicking to legendary, I won't set it back. When I get to that option, I'm just going to leave it sit there. Unless I find that one funny little tool. There's a lockpick somewhere in the system that is unbreakable. And when I get that, then I will turn around and move the lockpicking skill up to legendary. But I'm looking right now. My armoring and my alchemy are getting very close. But because I'm aiming and getting my armoring set to legendary. The neat part about it, okay. Oh, okay. That answers that. Thank you so much for that, Adam. I keep running into a problem with the Thieves Guild quests. The sad part is, um, the what is it called? When you're going with the Bedlam runs in different cities. I tried doing the Bedlam run in Windhelm, and Windhelm wouldn't register it as hitting the goal. So I had to drop that particular quest. I'm going to have to do the same thing in Riften because it's not registering when I go after the Bedlam quest. It doesn't register that I've done it. Okay, it's a glitch as near as I can figure in the system. Ah, there we go. Henry's asking, can you tell me how water and air elementals are created? Well, we start off with the issue that water and air elementals are the same elemental. Okay, they're just separated, a little bit more dissipated. But if you watch the way that water and air move, they have the exact same reactionary patterns. So they're the same race. This is why I only deal with 3 elements. 4 if you count spirit. And where is it? Right here. Yeah, with the water elementals. Okay, you're looking at the Waylosh. And what happens is because when you're looking at water components, and I do mean water as you recognize it. Water on other planets may be something else. Or liquid anyway. But water itself has the essence of life already in it. So when the right combination connects, it will cluster and form a pool, at which point it ends up developing its own consciousness. Now, because water itself naturally evaporates, what happens is their reproductive method is part of them evaporates, and that is them reproducing, as it were. It doesn't. The way they get from one planet to another is usually on the back of a cordon. Okay, but the reproductive system is literally what we call the evaporation system. Now, most water elementals are just a molecule or two in size. Okay, they are the water molecules themselves. Okay, the Weylosh are more of a colony entity than they are anything else, really. Um, you know, but they literally, it's done through a process of evaporation where they break apart a little more once they've got themselves fully connected. Now, do understand, they are not, water elementals are not a hive mind. They do not have total connection with each other once they're separated. Where are we here? Henry's just asking, ice element, yes. Air, ice, water, they're all the same thing. They're just moving at a slower pace. Okay. Dungeons and Dragons classifies them as quasi-elementals. I don't. Okay. It's kind of like the difference between a well-toned human body and, shall we say, a soft and squishy human body. Okay, I think that's a polite way to put it. Ultimately, they're still human. They just have a slightly different density to them. But as you have seen, much as you can stop a fire from progressing, okay, or you can stop a fire, you can stop a holic from moving forward. You can starve a holic to death. Absolutely, you can. Okay, those are your fire elementals. A Weylosh, you're not going to stop. Okay, because they are automatically, they produce their own food. They don't require an outside source. Net result, the Weylosh, whether they are gaseous, water, or ice, they will continue to move. Albeit you freeze them slow enough, they move awfully slowly. But at the same time, they will wipe out everything. This is, the Weylosh, what happens is the Caboran, as it evolves, because of the fact that Weylosh are born of they are born of the evaporation condensation process. As a Caboran evolves, okay, you'll find different ones of the elementals will connect with them and run piggyback in a symbiotic relationship. Okay, now the Corydon are literally the children. The Corydon are the children of the Caborans. Okay, but the Caboran provide a symbiotic situation for the Holic and the Weylosh. But that's pretty much how it works. Okay. By the way, there is another elemental that I forgot about. I stumbled across it just a couple of months back. Okay. Oh, yes. I do not know the name offhand. I will have to, but it will be included in volume 2. And those are the plasma elementals. AKA, plasma mostly in the way of blood. Okay. But there are other forms of plasma as well. And I will be covering those. Those I'll be adding to volume 2. I won't be adding them to volume 1. Because volume 1 is staying with the 59. Okay. It's just got a lot, and the second printing is getting a lot more information. It's funny, I was talking to my artist that is working on the Race of the Worlds, and as he put it, he's looking at the book that I'm dealing with. Hey world, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust your day has been going reasonably well. What is that? I don't need that. I trust your delay that your day has been going well. Mine's been, to say the least, a little on the hectic side. Where are we here? Yeah, I don't know what's going on after this. I've got all kinds of things on the go, but when you look at the different elementals, when you look at the various different elementals, we are looking at quite an array of them. Okay. It's not just, and this is why when I first put it together, I'm going, these guys are shadow walkers, those guys are elementals. As it turns out, book one was more focused on, it had three different types of names: actual names, referential names, in other words, just to give an idea of what I was dealing with. I am curious. With Romanian werewolves, do they actually growl in a different language, or does it sound pretty much the same? I know when you're dealing with Romanian people, when they speak, it sounds different. But speaking of werewolves, that is one of the ones that when I first put the book together, when I first put Races of the Worlds together, I put it out. I called them Lycan, okay, because it was referential. Then I went looking for it and went, okay, here's a much more accurate terminology, which is a Tarian trope. Then I got chewed out almost literally by one of them just the other day. And the actual what you see as a werewolf, okay, and I don't mean the Hollywood type. I mean the actual bipedal wolf appearing race. They are actually called Alarion, sorry. Okay, and I will be getting the racial names for the other ones because I do know of a number of other races. They're all from the same era, from the same place, right? But you've got feline, you've got, well, pretty much when we take a look at the different Terrian tropes that I know of, there's a lot of them. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I figured they might. You know, yeah, that's just one of these things about being a little off kilter. But no, I'm glad you're doing the research on it because all I do is I deal with people, and I call all of these different races we've been talking about people. Okay, I mean they're pretty much the same as you, and well, I'm gonna say and I, but well, there's some discrepancies, but they're pretty much like anybody else you meet. Okay, in as much as they've got their likes, they've got their dislikes. Not all members of any race are absolutely evil. There's no race that is just strictly evil or strictly good. It just doesn't work that way. Now, what I'm looking for is something I should have had up. Well, I've actually got it up. There. Now, this is the link to World's YouTube channel. I certainly recommend you drop in and take a look at it. Let him know, if you like what he's saying, if you like the different topics, give him a thumbs up and definitely subscribe to the channel at that point. And I know I think I put Nathan's up already, but I'm going to pop it up here again anyway with the Quantum Show. Yeah, I figure before I run out of time here, because in case you hadn't noticed, we're winding down. We We got about 10 minutes left here. Raven, this is not nice. Oh, that's okay. You're in the area. Raven, if you would be so kind, because I still haven't transferred your name, your YouTube channel over. If you would be kind enough to pop yours up, that would be appreciated. Because I still haven't, I keep forgetting to pop it over onto my list, making it a little rough. And of course, this is that neat one that got this whole thing started in a lot of ways. Oh, I haven't done that. This is the link to Spaced Out Radio. And that's going to be a couple weeks yet before I'm back on there. And of course, I just noticed that Shadow and Son, I don't know if I put his up there or not yet. But if I did, great, here it is again. If I didn't, my apologies. Here we go. I guess this falls under the category of better late than never. And I don't think I've seen Chad in here recently, but let's give him a bump anyway. Drop by his sign, drop by his channel, take a look at it. If you like what any of these people are saying, okay, absolutely, do them a favor. Give them a look. If you like what they're saying, so give them a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Okay, and while you're at it, if you like what's going on with this stream, absolutely do me a favor, give us a thumbs up. It apparently has something to do with the algorithm for YouTube. And certainly subscribe to the channel, and then do me a favor and spread the word. We are here. And no, I'm not going to go into singing We Are the Champions. This is just not going to happen. I figure if you're having a bad day, my singing is not going to help it. But these are just some of the things I'm working on. Okay. And like I said, I wanted to cover the seabed, the deep sea races. Not all of those are deep sea, by the way. Put this back where it belongs. And what is, let's see, today is Tuesday. Today must be Wednesday. I don't know. I get lost on what day of the week I'm working on. Never mind what day of the week it is. Yeah, today is Wednesday, which means tomorrow I won't be here. Okay, because tomorrow's my gaming day, and that heck, I wouldn't give up my gaming day for a stroke. I'm not about to give up my gaming day for a movie or for a live stream. I might do one later in the day, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I gotta take a break at some point. But that being said, I've got a list around here somewhere again. I think what yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm starting to get things moved around where I'm looking at the evolution of, quite literally in this case, the evolution of business, the evolution of finance. And I'm thinking that may be the road to go on the Friday nights. Okay. What I'm trying to do is get a little bit more organized. And if any one of you, well, let's get that out of the way. If any one of you have an idea of what genre of an overall category, if you will, to drop into the different days, absolutely, I'm very open to input. Okay, I'm not really open to being told how I have to do things, which is why even as my company grows a little stronger, it's not going to, in my opinion, and that's the only one that matters. The reason I won't open a corporation is because my understanding of corporations right now is that you have to have a board of directors, and said board of directors has the power to fire you. Well, I'm not taking that chance. A board of advisors, I absolutely will look at. Because the reality is I don't know everything going on. I'd like to think I do, but no, in all fairness, I really don't. You realize the kind of burden that is to actually know everything that's happening? Oh, yes, I keep thinking of that, and that I just looked at that. This little issue here is going away. This thing, it's a great little tool, but the problem is it also belonged to my father. But it's starting to wear out, as in the belt doesn't hold anymore. So unfortunately, it's leatherette, by the way. That's a belt pouch, and it is going the way of the dodo bird at this point. Because, well, it doesn't hold together properly, and the snaps are already gone. I can give you all sorts of reasons why. Point being, it's going the way of the dodo bird. That little satchel on the back, that goes with me everywhere because that's where I write. So now what I've got to do when I get done this stream is take a little bit of a break, make sure I get dinner. Where are we here? Sure. Bring that up so I can't see. Oh, that's I appreciate that. The problem is I was staying in a grocery store one day. I'm pretty Adam's just saying Stephanie says they're coming back into style. It was funny. I was in a grocery store just standing in lineup, and a guy complained about the way I was dressed. And like, because I was just dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, and he made a complaint. I looked at him and I said, and because he says, your outfit is terrible. I looked at him and I says, well, it's not like I'm a fashion statement. I kid you not, the girl behind me, somewhere in her late teens, early 20s, she pipes up and goes, "You are so not a good one, but you are a statement." And I'm thinking like, okay, I can work with it. I've never worried too much about fashion. Something about being short-sighted and colorblind. You know, Fashion didn't become a very high priority. I just developed the attitude that if you don't like the way, if you've got influence on my life, right, and you don't like the color of what I'm wearing, let me know. But I'm not putting on a pink shirt, so just forget it. And I'm not wearing ties. These things are just not going to happen. You take care, Henry. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, that's where we are. So before I run completely out of time, I do want to say thank you all so very much for joining us today and for sharing your time with me. I really do appreciate it. I hope the rest of your day goes well, and we will be back on Friday. I'm working on how to figure out how to categorize the days so it's a little bit more stabilized. Okay, it's not going to change any from the standpoint of here's the topic we're starting on, and look, we went that direction. You know, I'm amazed actually in a lot of ways. We started off looking at the deep sea in the deep sea races, and we stayed pretty much on track. Yeah. The world goes, fashion trends are cyclical. If you dress the same style long enough, it'll kind of become trendy again, and you'll be the hipster who was the cutting edge. Great. Yeah, it seems to do that about every 30 or 40 years. And the most comfortable clothing I was ever in was 3-foot heels and bell bottoms. You know, the 3-foot heels was because it kept my knee shoved forward, meaning I didn't suffer as many dislocations. You know, it's kind of like I've got 2 clocks in the house that are right twice a day without fail. Only twice a day, but without fail. Yes, they're electric clocks I just don't turn on. Yeah, I just don't put a battery in. But I must say thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate your time, and I do look forward to talking to you again. I will be back again on Friday. I won't be here tomorrow, but I will be back on Friday, and hope to see you all there. Until then, do me a favor, give us a thumbs up if you like the stream. Do subscribe and share the daylights out of it. Okay. Even if you're sending it off to your enemies, I like ticking people off, apparently. Anyway, that being said, you guys have yourselves a great night and a great time until whenever. And until we meet again, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.